Radiant Ones, Kim Thornton here, your host of the Radiant Revival Summit, easy 1% shifts to unlock your ageless vitality. And I am super stoked. I am thrilled and delighted to have with you today. May I present Tarisha Tourok. She is a trauma-informed relationship and sacred sexuality therapist. With postgraduate degrees in counseling and psychology, Tarisha has guided hundreds of women towards embracing their sexuality, rediscovering their desires, and experiencing deep, soulful connection in their relationships, and probably even talking about things that might have seemed taboo in the past. Today, she's here to share her 5 keys to heart-melting intimacy that can reignite passion and self-confidence. Tarisha, thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you so much, Kim. And I think it's so wonderful you're doing this for women, because I found once we come to after 40s, 60s, 70s, we want to discover ourselves. It's beautiful.
Yes. Well, and so glad to have connected with you. There's like so many questions that pop in my mind as I'm thinking about all the things maybe I didn't know when I was younger, but now that I'm in a different season and things are changing. So like what's going on with my body? But first, your work is deeply empowering for women over 40. Just what inspired you to focus on sexual empowerment, and how is it connected to most women's journey?
What inspired me, my journey. And I was trained as a chartered accountant. So that's when I started. And then I started to feel kind of like I was in a straitjacket. I was married. I was supposed to be happy, but I wasn't doing it for me. And because I'm coming from a past of history of sexual abuse when I was a child, I really felt like this is my beautiful life and I should enjoy everything, but it wasn't working for me. And that's how I really started with, I needed to go deep inside myself, find the beauty in my sexuality. So then at a certain point, the more I worked with that, I was like, oh, I want to share it with other women because I've shifted so much and started to feel so beautiful. So yeah, that's how I came to that. And I find that a lot of women, there's so much shame, judgment around our sexuality, and we have quite a body shaming culture, even though it's kind of, we sell the cast and everything with sexuality, right, with images of beautiful females. But then at the same time, there's so much shame and taboo. So I just love to bring something that sparks us, that we start to feel so alive and so beautiful. And it just, brings so much joy to my heart.
Well, it's definitely so needed. And there's so much in there that I want to unpack. So let's start with this. For the woman who is struggling with body image and the shame, the blame, the guilt, the embarrassment, whatever it is, but as they age, as our body changes, but our desires might not. And yet there's a gap between us feeling comfortable wanting what we wanted before, and maybe we got it, maybe we didn't get it, maybe now we feel more bold and confident to ask for it. How does what you do in helping to release that trauma and the shame and that judgment, how can it help our audience build their confidence with intimacy?
So the first step that I really want to highlight, it's not, we can't talk our way through it. Yeah. We really need to come back into our bodies. And I work with somatic psychotherapy, but we really need to come back into the body and start to feel the shift in the body. Because the disconnect is that as women, we feel so empowered, especially, 40, 50s, we're like, I feel so empowered. I can do anything. I'm so independent. And yet we feel like, oh, but my sexuality and my body, I feel so constricted. I feel so kind of, there's a sense of shame. And when we change, right, the body's changing, we start to feel it's difficult for me. Like I'm not as attractive anymore. I'm not as visible. And we go down on ourselves. And so what I teach women, if when we connect to our radiance, and radiance doesn't have age, it doesn't have shape or size. It's that energy that comes through us. And I really help, that's what I'd invite listeners to do, connect the heart to the sexuality. Yeah. Because it's so important. Like if we're just in the heart, then we're disconnected from our sexuality. And when we go to sexuality, it's disconnected from the heart. And when we connect heart with sexuality, we start to feel that inner beauty. And when we feel that inner beauty, then it doesn't matter what we look like. We can share that beauty with our partners. Yeah, or we can invite new partners into our life. But that radiance, actually, what I find is the older we become, the easier it is for us to connect to that radiance. Because we know ourselves, we connect to our hearts, we have so much beauty in us, so much experience, so much kindness, that if we bring sexuality to that, that's when we start to bloom. And that's what really shifts our experience of intimacy. Not sure if I'm answering your question. There's so much in your question.
Oh my God. I know there's so many things. I'm trying to like really distill it down. So for the woman who grew up that a lot of the things about her body were taboo to talk about, maybe they couldn't say the word, or her family or her culture or her wherever she's from, they didn't use medical terminology, we'll put it that way, to accurately describe if something's, going well or going wrong. So when you go in for checkups, what's normal and not. So can you just give us a couple of prompts for a woman who feels really uncomfortable or awkward talking about her lady bits with like a practitioner when things are medically necessary, when you need to describe something? Help us make it feel easier with a lot less shame if it's something we've never done before.
So the really important piece is to actually find a certain group, find someone, right, another woman that you can practice it with. Because going and talking to someone else about it feels too much. Maybe you can even start with the mirror, just talking to yourself, right? Calling the vulva, right? This is my clitoris. And I teach women actually how to deeply connect to that part. And when you start bringing the beauty, right, into your sex center, and I call it yoni in tantric words, and, vulva, pussy, whatever you want to call that part of you. When you start bringing that beauty and kindness and warmth and love, then it's easier for you to actually talk about your sexuality. But first we need to bring that beauty and kindness and love. And then it feels like, oh, it's just a part of me that I'm deeply connected with. And then when you can find, first a mirror and then maybe a girlfriend, it's like, well, can I say vulva? Can I say clitoris? Can we talk about it with you in a safe space? Because then when I can talk about it easier with my lover, with medical practitioner, but it's all in practice. And they've done even research that women started to talk, like they got these groups of women and they started to talk about their sexual desire, their sexuality, and actually it increased their sexual desire. So us women coming together and having conversation is a huge step to removing that shame, because the shame survives in the darkness. And when we come together and we start talking, voicing, even though it's uncomfortable, we really remove that shame. And then we're able to talk about it.
Oh, that's so good. And practicing with a friend. Find a friend that's willing to practice. The easiest thing, and I love that is something within our power to do, especially when sometimes we feel powerless. What are, as we have more time on the planet, we're childbearing and our body's changing and we hit middle age and, then there's menopause. We may find that our desires change, but I have heard, so correct me if I'm wrong, but women's sexual peak happens later in life. It's not the same as with men, which happens much earlier. Is that correct? Or what's the science behind that?
So for me personally, I have the best sex life of my life now. It just feels so good. And I feel it kind of, the whole body starts to vibrate like with love. It's like we're physically making love in the body. And it comes from us knowing ourselves better and coming to peace with ourselves. And also what we need to do is to feel safe inside our body. And when I feel safe inside my body, I can open up so much more. I can surrender to love. And because as we get older, we actually start to feel safer. We start to feel like I can say no, I can say yes, I can open myself up. I'm actually not afraid to allow someone to come closer to me because I know I can hold myself. And the more we open up, the more pleasure, the more joy there is. Yeah. And we can bring all of ourselves as well. Because when we're younger, we kind of tend to put the pretty face forward. Yeah. And when we're just like working hard to put the pretty us, we shut down some parts of us and there's no freedom. But when we get older, there's this, especially, women who come to me, they're like 40, 50, and like women, when they go through menopause, it's like, I don't care what other people think about me anymore. And that helps us to actually feel so free in our expression and also find our voice, because sexuality connected to our voice quite a lot. And when I can express myself more, I can feel more down there as well. And I can bring all of me to the experience. Yeah. And then the more of me I bring to the experience, the more pleasure I feel. And that's how it happens. And also, I'm not sure, like, they say men have the sexual peak earlier. I'd argue with that. They have their physiology works better, right? Like there's more, they can have more erections, right? They can have more orgasms. But actually, the older men get, the more they start to bring you deeper intimacy and deeper connection. So actually, we're in love, the older we become, there are more men who want something deeper, not just mechanical sex. So, because when they're young, it's kind of more just physiology. It's like, I just need it. It's more like a need. And the older the men become, the more they want to feel in their heart, the more they become tender. So actually, as older we become, we have so much more possibility of experience amazing, really amazing, mind-blowing sex.
Oh, I know a lot of our radiant ones, our listeners, our viewers are like breathing a sigh of relief to hear that, thinking, why are our peaks so different? We've missed the boats. But apparently it's a different boat and it's even better.
It's a different boat.
One of the things that we and I had mentioned before in preparation for the episode is you work with women, and especially for women that maybe intimacy, if you want to call it sex, has been more of a function. It wasn't an experience. It was as intimate as far as they knew, but you're talking about there is more available. And so instead of just going through the motion, you help women unlock what you have deemed their ancient wisdom of the body. Tell us about that.
And so again, right, it's connecting to the body. Sex happens in the body. Intimacy happens in the body. And I find that when I feel safe in the body, I can come back here. And quite often women, and I mean, that's how we're trained in our society. We either in our head, or sometimes we're even above our head. We kind of like, it's not safe to be here. Especially if we had past traumas. And coming back to the body, connecting deeply and creating a relationship. It's almost like, we talk about self-love. And I take it kind of a step further, that this is love for my body. And what if I see my body as a separate being? And when I start seeing my body as a separate being, then I stop abusing her. I actually take care of her. And then my body becomes like my inner GPS. Like I feel like sometimes I can walk on the street and my body goes like, no, we're not going to go there. I need to turn around. And I have no idea why, but I've learned to listen. And in that way, I start to trust my body. I start to create this deep relationship. And then the body starts to respond. It's quite amazing. Like sometimes you can go to the shop and your body starts to grab food that's good for you. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to hear some experts telling you what to do and how to be. But your body starts to, this is what I need. And I start to follow that flow of my life. And the more I trust my body, the more body starts to cooperate. And I find that then we become healthier. Yeah, because we know what we need rather than someone telling us what to do. And I've done tons of nutritional studies, and it's like, it's amazing how all this, dieting theories are so different. The more extreme they are, the more popular they are. But actually coming back to myself, and then I'm learning through my body what I need. Yeah, and that's, I feel like then we can really give the best nourishment to ourselves, and then the body becomes the best, and it just brings us those pleasures that we never knew were there.
I'm hearing you and it sounds amazing. And I'm also aware that many clients, many classes, many students, many women out there have a disconnect. Like they hear what you're saying conceptually, but like they can't even be there. There's such a disconnect with enjoyment, pleasure, sex, intimacy, all of that. So, one of the things you had mentioned also, and I'm wondering if this helps to play into that, is something called activating your potential. So, could you dive into more of what this involves and why it is fundamental in fulfilling your sexual experience?
Um, it's kind of activating your potential is a bit a different thing, from being disconnected from the body.
Okay.
But also, um, activating your potential is all about actually stepping in what's possible for me. Yeah. Not making yourself smaller, but actually what's possible for me. So I don't settle for less, because that's a big problem. I see women feel like we don't have good role models, right? We like, this is what I have, and there is a story that the longer, the longer we're in a relationship, the less passion there is, the older we become, the less desire there is, and we start to settle. So it's so important as a first step actually to see, I don't want to settle, and I start to feel into what's possible for me. And that's what's going to draw me forward. Yeah. But then the next piece comes that really find out why the disconnect is there. Yeah. Because if there was past negative experiences, we tend to find that it's not safe to be in the body. And so what needs to happen there is actually we need to heal those past experiences, past traumas, because otherwise I don't want to come back here. It doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel like a good place to be, right? That non-goodness. So I avoid it. So it's important to understand why there's disconnect. Then the other piece of disconnect could be that I'm so used to putting my value in what I do for people, right? Or how intelligent I am. And then I'm more in my head rather in my body. And quite often there is a disconnect because we might feel like that shame and kind of like I'm not attractive anymore. Yeah. Like I'm not pretty. And we go more into that tomboy version of ourselves, right? And we go through our achievements and we try to get respect from people rather than the love that we so deeply crave. So in that piece is really important to understand why there is disconnect. And then there are different ways of actually dealing with that.
So, if a woman doesn't know what she doesn't know, so as an example, I think a lot of women may feel themselves, you talked about there is that stereotype, and it's not accurate, it's common, but doesn't mean it has to be normal where you're in a relationship longer, the desire and the passion go down. That's not necessarily true. So, for the women who find themselves stuck in a routine with their partners, what advice would you give them for rekindling that spark, that excitement, and creating the deeper soulful connections in that long-term relationship?
And the first step that I really want to tell women is it's in your power. You can shift it. And what you need to do is actually come back to your own pleasure. Stop expecting him or them to fulfill you. Stop putting that responsibility, right? It's up to them, and I'm not excited about intimacy because they're not turning me over. Because that's a stuck, that's blame, that's a stuck place. But actually, what if it's up to me? Just consider for a day. What if it's up to me and I can shift something? And the more I can connect, my sexuality to my heart, the more I can clear shame and judgments, the more I can bring beauty into my sexuality, the more I practice sacred sexuality, breathing, moving, bringing that love, the beauty into your body, then I can become an invitation for my partner to step into that experience with me. And it's quite a different, right? When it's like it's all up to them and I'm kind of pushing and I feel dissatisfied and I feel frustrated. We need to open up and actually, okay, I feel that inside myself and I'm inviting you into this space with me. But if we have lots of frustrations, then the first step becomes I have to clear those frustrations. I have to air that because I can't become an invitation if I'm so pissed off with you and I feel like you're failing me all the time. So really coming back to yourself, okay, I can find that ecstatic flow of energy inside myself. I don't even need another person. Like now when I go to the beach, it's like, this feels so good. It feels like lovemaking. I just breathe on the beach. It feels like lovemaking. And of course, when my partner comes to me and I'm already in this state, it's just so easy. And I find that as women, we either can give power to men or we can take it away. And when we're frustrated with them, when we blame them, we actually take their power away, and then they can't do it for us. But the more I connect to the beauty inside of me, the more I can become an invitation, and then they're really willing. Yeah. And if they're not willing, then it's not your man. But quite often they're so willing to actually step forward once we become an invitation.
And often you hear in other things, but we can translate it into this category with, women over 40 and sexual intimacy, that men are mind readers. And if you've been in a long-term relationship or even a shorter one, for the women that might not even know their pleasure centers, you make a really good case that the men might be guessing, and who knows where either party is getting their information from. And so to go back to your recommendation is to know what's possible. How would a woman even start to explore that?
It's a really big conversation. I do this Unlock Your Sexual Desire Challenge, and I work through Sexual Desire Matrix, which got lots of pieces kind of to it. But to start the conversation, if you just notice and remember when I had an amazing sexual experience, what was happening there? What did really turn me on? Yeah. And when I had a bad experience, what was actually happening? And be very specific. Start to find the specific points. Okay, this is what was happening. And then find another incident when you've had an amazing sex life, right? When it was like something like, oh, really, excited you. What was specific about it? So you can start seeing the moving parts, right? What do I need? Because we're all unique. Every woman is unique, and we all need different things. And sometimes what happens, how our desire gets shut down, we think this is what I'm supposed to have, but that doesn't turn me on, and then we feel it's wrong. So very important to find, and I do this different blueprints, kind of each woman is unique. But to start with just specific incidents when it worked for you.
I really like that. And you said something so key is that, our desires often get shut down. And so, yeah, it just like suspends everything when that happens. But we can change that and go from suspended to supported, which is a great way to start that blueprint. You mentioned, because this is a perfect lead into heart melting sex. Like we're ramping our way up here. Share what this means and why it's important, especially for women who are navigating these life changes.
It's important because nothing less satisfies us. The way is, if the heart is not there, if it doesn't open me up, then we might start to feel resentment, or we feel like I don't really want it. It's not what I want. Because sex is communication, right? It's deep communication with another person. And it's there to open us to love, to make love in our bodies. And so I feel like after 40, this is the only kind of sex women want. And they say, I don't want sex because they can't experience that one. So it's not about sex as such. It's more, I want this amazing orgasmic, hard orgasm experience, right? And I can't get it, so I don't want sex. But this, when we raise the energy up to our heart, and when it starts vibrating, and you can cry and you can laugh, and you can feel angry, but you really open, it brings so much pleasure and joy, and it nourishes us. I find sex deeply nourishing, like especially when I'm really tired, I come to my partner and say, can you make love to me? And then I can experience all the feelings and let go. And I was like, now I can come back to myself. So it's nourishing, it's so satisfying. And I feel like for quite a lot of women, it's like, when I feel the deep connection and love, then love makes sense. Then I have a meaning. Then it feels like, now I can do so much more.
There is so much we could go into here. I want to address, because we've had other amazing experts, and one thing that does come up for women in this menopause, premenopause, peri, and post is this issue of low libido. And so I would be remiss if I didn't take that into account and ask, what happens if she wants it here, but it's not happening down below medically? What is your take or your recommendation on, I don't know, equipment, supplies? What's what is that from your point of view?
Um, See, but quite often what happens, because there's such a big story around menopause, like the message is there's something wrong with you now and you need to fix it somehow. I mean, sometimes women use this as an excuse. They go like, well, I'm menopausal and I can't do anything else about it. But if you had past trauma or you have past negative experiences that's not that's unprocessed, if you have lots of resentment, if you are disconnected from your body, yeah, if you don't have a regular practice that puts you in your feminine, that's the problem. It's not menopause. And I've worked with women, going through menopause and often they were like, wow, I was on a hormone replacement therapy and it didn't really help. But actually connecting to myself and really feeling that ecstatic sexual energy inside myself without the pressure of another person changes everything. Because at another piece, it's like when we go through menopause, what I find happens, women go like, I've done so much for everyone else. I'll stick with it. I don't want it anymore. And we shut down our desires because if we have a belief, and it's very strong in us somewhere deep inside, that I do sex for my partner, I have to do it for them, then we shut it down because I don't want to do it for anyone else. So the best for me treatment is actually to come back and say, what if my sexuality is for me? What if I start exploring what I want, how I want it? What if I don't have that pressure? And the other tool that I highly recommend is coconut oil. That's the only tool I use. Try coconut oil. It's magic.
For those that have never heard of coconut oil for this purpose, can you give us a little bit more, like what would she do with it?
Oh, she just puts it all over herself and her partner. And it's just so smooth. It's so sensual. Like when you touch, even try it with yourself. Put some coconut on your fingers, touch yourself, touch your vulva, touch your clitoris. And because it's so smooth, it just brings so much pleasure and so much sensation.
So it helps to heighten the sensitivity, especially if things haven't been sensitive for a while.
Yeah. And the dryness and all of that, it really kind of, the coconut oil really brings that smoothness.
Oh, great recommendation. I know there's probably a lot of women leaning in and maybe they're taking notes as well. You are offering an incredible gift, the Reclaim Your Sexual Confidence gift to all of the listeners here. Tell us what we can expect from this course and how it can support their journey towards self-love and sexual confidence.
Yes, so I've done this course and it's a mini course and it's 5 practices. So you're gonna go through 5 practices and really what we've talked about today, right? Start reconnecting to your body, to your sexuality in a way that we can't talk always through it. So it's practices that you're gonna experience in your body. And it's only gonna take you 15 minutes a day for 5 days. To really start bringing that sense of beauty, sense of love to yourself, to your body, to your sexuality, to silence your harsh inner critic, because that kind of takes us out of our bodies as well. And so you can start feeling attractive, confident, sexy in your skin. And it's very simple and it changes quite a lot. And then you can take the practices forward in your life.
Oh, that sounds amazing. And, something we haven't really talked about, but I want to bring it to light for a lot of our listeners, just to say what might be whispering in the mind somewhere is our bodies were meant for this. Just because there was a social custom or something that, didn't necessarily exalt the woman's desires or her sexual intimacy, it doesn't mean our body is not designed and wired to enjoy this. And so I think you've really shed such a lovely light on that, is our bodies know how to do this. They were meant to do this. And maybe it takes a little bit of practice to uncover kind of our operations manual, but I like you've given us a wonderful blueprint to figure out what it is in the season that we're in. And as it changes, we can go back to this blueprint and continue to improve the communication between our heart and our head and our partner, and really open up a lot of that joy in the body. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. we can
Fantastic.
really experience different. And some people see, the thing is, some women might not want to have penetrative sex, but actually to have the pleasure of being alive, being in the body, everyone can access it.
Well said. Well said. Thank you, Tarisha, for sharing such profound insights with us today. Your approach to sensual intimacy and that inner confidence and that body confidence. I know our audience is leaving with so many pearls of wisdom, and I can't wait to hear about the stories that this helps spark to transform their lives. Radiant Ones, be sure to download and access your free gift to reclaim your sexual confidence, the mini course, and start your journey to a more empowered, joyful, and connected self. We will see you in the next session.
Thank you so much.